Coach that day mercifully called an end to the match after one round. And then he started teaching me a little something about defense. By the third day, I was able to keep from getting hit so much. By the end of 2 weeks, I was able to become the hit-or instead of the hit-ee. And I quickly discovered that has a lot of benefits and advantages. And by the end of the season, because of my extra weight, I was able to do better than just good. My point is, yes, motivation is important, but the thing I really want to emphasize is the motivation ought to lead to the education and the training. That's the point I'm making. If you're going to stay motivated, you need to develop a sense of humor. There's a little book called Anguished English. I encourage you to get it. It is the funniest thing I have encountered in, I don't know when. I got 1 and 2 now. Read it. It is absolutely hilarious. Reader's Digest is one of my favorite sources. I love the story of this lady that was in this college town. She called her friend's son. She'd been asked to do that. And she got his voice machine. And the voice machine said, if it's a telephone company calling, the check is in the mail. If it's a student loan association, you should have made the loan bigger. If it's Mom, I am dead broke. Send me some money quick. If it's a girl, don't worry about money. I've got plenty of it. Now, that's Well, why is humor so important? Researchers have found a connection between humor and family strength. Humorous remarks, family jokes, and a playful attitude were characteristics of a strong family and found to be lacking in weaker families. University of Michigan study concluded that people with a good sense of humor tend to be more creative, emotionally stable, realistic, and self-confident. John Maxwell says a person who can laugh at life, laugh at himself, will have less stress in life. If you have a good sense of humor, you'll climb the ladder of success much faster. You build better relationships that help to generate team spirit. I want to emphasize that when you're telling jokes, or if you're listening to jokes, be very careful. No racist jokes. No sexist jokes. Don't tell a joke. Don't start the joke that you cannot finish regardless of who is walking into the room. Filthy, violent language is just simply out of order. Humor, good, clean humor, is really one of the most uplifting things you can find. I love this letter sent out by Dr. Charles Allen under the guise of having had an incident happen, and it was a fundraising letter. And this gentleman had allegedly written him back and said, in reply to your request to send a check, I wish to inform you that the present condition of my bank account makes it almost impossible. My shattered financial condition is due to federal laws, state laws, county laws, corporation laws, in-laws, and outlaws. Through these taxes, I'm compelled to pay a business tax, amusement tax, head tax, school tax, gas tax, light tax, water tax, sale tax, and even my brains are taxed. I'm required to get a business license, dog license, and marriage license while contributing to every organization or society which the genius of man is capable of bringing to light. Comic relief, unemployment relief, every hospital and charitable institution in the city, including the Red Cross, the Black Cross, the Purple Cross, and the Double Cross. For my own safety, I'm required to carry life insurance, property insurance, liability insurance, burglary insurance, accident insurance, business insurance, earthquake insurance, tornado insurance, unemployment insurance, and fire insurance. I'm inspected, expected, disrespected, rejected, dejected, examined, re-examined, informed, reformed, summoned, fined, commended, compelled, until I provide an inexhaustible supply of money for every known deed, desire, and hope of the human race. And if I refuse to donate something or other, I'm boycotted, talked about, lied about, held up, held down, robbed until I am ruined. I can tell you honestly that until the unexpected happened, I could not enclose this check. The wolf that comes to so many doors nowadays fortunately came to ours and just had pups in the kitchen. I've sold them, and here's the money. A sense of humor helps. I was coming in on a plane once, and more than once, and the flight attendant gets on the intercom and says, "We are now making our final approach." Scared the wits out of me. I told her, I said, quick, go tell the captain make his next to final approach. I've got some things I really want to get done. Want to maintain that upbeat attitude? Take care of your health. Interesting enough, get enough sleep is first on the list. When you burn the candle at both ends, it really inhibits that creativeness in your life. You're more prone to mistakes. You're not producing more. You simply are producing a different quality of work. Now, there's a difference between the workaholic and the peak performer. The workaholic works from fear and or greed. It's easy to invest more hours in a job that you already enjoy and do well than it is to go on home and maybe face a rebellious child that you do not want to deal with. Now, a peak performer works because of the love of what they're doing, and they love to provide for their families. Now, sleep deprivation has caused a lot of mistakes. We now know that the nuclear disaster at 3 Mile Island was at least partially caused by people in important positions not having had enough sleep and make critical mistakes because they did not have that trigger-sharp mind to handle the situation. Chernobyl, beyond any doubt, was largely because of a lack of sleep. The Challenger disaster, it is suspected, was at least partially because key people did not have the sharpness to make that critical split-second decision that could have made a difference. Without enough sleep, your energy level goes down. You're also more likely to become addicted to not only prescription drugs, but the illegal drugs as well. See, the brain produces certain chemicals, and it can only do that during sleep. You don't get enough sleep, it doesn't produce enough of those chemicals. The body demands balance, and that's when it happens. Your energy level goes down. Number 2, eat sensibly and exercise regularly. Believe me, it does not take time. It will generate more time for you. And then you avoid the poisons, mainly tobacco and alcohol. There's been a lot of discussion about the fact that a drink a day will, cut down on your heart attack and so forth, and you'll have less heart trouble. But the reality is that if you take 1 drink a day, chances are so good that you're going to take the second one, and then the third one later, and then the fourth one. When you factor it all together, those people, if we were to take 100 people that do not drink and say to the 100, start with a drink a day, the other 100, we would say, don't ever take a drink. The 100 who never took a drink would definitely have a longer lifespan. A lot of people say, well, it relaxes me, it sharpens me up. Now, obviously, you don't believe it sharpens you up. If you do believe that, would you insist that your surgeon have a little nip before he opens you up just before major surgery? I don't think so. I've met a lot of people in my lifetime, I really have. Thus far, I have never met a single human being who says, I got to tell you right now, alcohol changed my life for the better. Not even once has that ever happened. I have seen the tragedy that happens when we do drink. And hear this, many people become alcoholics with the first drink. I've read countless stories of people 55, 60 years old who took the first drink, and that lit the fire, and they immediately started drinking excessive amounts. We can tell you 1 out of 9 to 1 out of 11 who take a social drink will end up with a drinking problem. Now, you've noticed throughout the series, I talk a lot about moral absolutes. A lot of people talk about relative this and relative that. And, there really is no such thing. When you get to absolutes, I believe there are many that are absolute, not relatively. I just got back in from Tampa where I was in a golf tournament over there. When I got home, that red-headed wife of mine didn't ask me if I was relatively faithful to her. As a matter of fact, if I were relatively faithful to her, I'd be in big trouble. It wouldn't be relative trouble. It would be big trouble. There are some absolutes in life. I want you to think with me, all great failures are moral failures. Think about it. What would have been the end result of history without that little character flaw of Richard Nixon or Spiro Agnew or Jim Wright, or Bob Packwood, or Mike Espy, or Pete Rose, or Gary Hart, or Jimmy Swaggart, or Jimmy Baker. You see, there are some absolutes. All great failures are character failures. Check the records. As you know, one of the things I'm most grateful for is I have the privilege of serving on the National Board of Advisors for the Boy Scouts of America. The Harris poll was just completed a few months ago. Here's what they found. Kids that served 5 years in the Scouts, 98% of them finished high school. What do they teach in the Scouts? On my honor, I will do my best. 40% of them finish college as versus 16% of the general population. 33% have incomes of over $50,000 a year versus 17% of the general population. 70% of those kids who stay in scouting 5 years end up in who's who. 72% of the Rhodes Scholars were in Boy Scouts, and 94% of them said as adults that the character development they experienced when they were in the Scouts made a big difference in their character and values in their life. The good guys and the good gals really do win. So where does that bring us today? What are opportunities in America today? Well, the choice is pretty much yours. Opportunity is either now, here, or nowhere. It depends on your attitude. The same amount of letters, but they come out with an entirely different result. Opportunity really is now, here, or it is nowhere. And the choice is up to you. Again and again and again, 80% of all the millionaires in America are